gentlemen, this is our guys podcast, and it's only been 48 hours, and all Trump is doing is win, win, win. And now your hosts, Josh Hammerling and Max McGuire.
Winning, he said we'd be tired of winning. I gotta say, Josh, piece of my hair is not cooperating. I gotta say, I part of me is getting a little tired of winning. The other part of me feels like that Dave Chappelle sketch where he's playing a drug addict and he's screaming, "You got any more?" I'm over here saying, "You got any more of those executive orders?
Yeah,
You got any more of those executive orders?" Part of me is like, "Calm down, too much winning." The other part of me is like, "We could do more. We could do more.
We can.
100 executive actions the first day. Come on, we could do 200." Right?
Oh, I think we do 1,000.
Have you seen the Libertarians?
What are they up to? Like crying their cereal? Or
Trump had gone to the Libertarian convention, and he promised them that if you help elect me, I will grant clemency to Ross Ulbricht, who he created the Silk Road. He was the programmer who created the Silk Road, and that was used. It was like dark web trading marketplace, and it was used for illegal stuff. But he got like multiple life sentences without the possibility of parole. Meanwhile, drug dealers that used it, who actually traded the drugs, got far less. Yeah. So Trump had promised them that, and even after he promised them that, they still continued to boo him at the convention. So I was wondering, is this even going to be a promise anymore? He goes in there and promises you something, and you boo him.
Yeah.
But he did it. He had promised them he would do it on day one. He did it on day two, and now libertarians are mad that he forced Ross to stay in prison one extra day. I mean, these people, you can never make these people happy.
Oh my God, over a 24-hour period.
Yeah.
I would just be happy with the pardon. Like, I mean, talking about a huge win. And I don't know how I felt about him. I remember like hearing about Silk Road and that kind of stuff. And
a life sentence, though, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's probably for the OD deaths or whatever that occurred and yada, yada, yada. But it just didn't make sense. It seemed like a real far overreach of power. And he ends up doing it anyway, and they're dicks about it?
Yeah, they're kind of being dicks about it. But obviously, many aren't, but there are still some that are being dicks about it. Now, the technically accurate person would say, well, that's Trump's first full day. Inauguration Day is all about pomp and circumstance. He fit some stuff in that day. And the part of me says, actually, I would have wished he would have pardoned the January 6ers the next day and gotten it right, because there are still January 6ers who are locked up in the D.C. jail. They're refusing to let them out.
I know.
Because the way he did the pardon, he didn't name them by name. He pardoned anyone connected with January 6th who was charged with a crime in or around the Capitol on January 6th.
Wow.
So the D.C. jail is pulling some shenanigans. There's no doubt about it. D.C. mayor pulling shenanigans to try and stop these releases. There are rumors that the people left have signs of physical abuse that they might be trying to let heal before. I mean, that's like the darkest rumor I've been hearing. But so obviously these are evil people, the jailers, who have been really abusing these hostages, January 6th hostages. To play the devil's advocate, imagine you're the night shift, right? Mm-hmm. And someone shows up with a piece of paper signed by Donald Trump, and it's a pardon. And they're saying, hey, release this person. And that person's name isn't on the list.
Yeah.
Right? Technically, the person's name isn't on the list. It's the crime. Was the crime a January 6th crime? And this is a minimum wage, not minimum, but you know, just a security guard at a jail. Maybe he's working the front desk on the night shift. Is it really up to him to make that determination? I would argue no, right?
No, not at all. Yeah.
If the pardon had been written, every single one of them by name, then it's an easy thing. Here's a pardon. This is his name. You have a prisoner by this name. Release them. Then the night shift could actually go out on a limb and release them and not suffer for it, right? Now, Do I think that's actually the reason? No, I think there are a lot of, like they were out yesterday, Josh, giving parking tickets to the protesters outside of the DC jail. That is ultimate pettiness. Very obviously pettiness. So I don't want to give them the benefit of the doubt, but I also understand that the pardon, while we are all grateful for it and we love it, seemed to have been rushed in a way that made it relatively hard to get people released the same day.
And this is on top of like I heard people were being moved around and were purposely being moved around just so that they to delay the time that their name entered their system. So it just created more time that they were in prison. Just kind of little dirty shenanigans of just moving you
Yeah.
from place to place. And if this was totally opposite and this was Democrats trying to be released for a January 6th thing, like it would have happened with such a quickness, so fast that people's heads would have spun. There would have been no dust left on the bars. Like it doesn't really surprise me. I mean, it just shows you that this is a political witch hunt. I mean, how long ago how often have we said that, right? How often has Trump said that? It's just a witch
Yeah.
hunt going after your political enemy, and it still is, right? I mean, it hasn't changed. Is Tina Peters going to get anything? You think?
Well, she's a state. It's a state charge.
Oh, so it's not a federal charge, man. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. And so, like, there's other ways that the pardon, again, not ungrateful, but the pardon, if maybe they had released it the next morning, people could have looked at it, got the whole list together.
Yeah.
There was one person who was released and then rearrested on a firearm charge,
Which is crazy.
which sucks for him.
Yeah.
There's another gentleman. I'm trying to find the name. The FBI was trying to use him as like a confidential informant.
Uh-huh.
Jeremy Brown, I believe. Jeremy Brown. Yep. Jeremy Brown of Florida. They wanted him to be a confidential informant. He said, "Screw you. I'm not doing it." They then used his participation in January 6th against him, raided his home with a search warrant, and found things that were
Questionable.
of questionable provenance. Like they found 2 grenades in his house, and he says, "What are you talking about? I don't own grenades." They ran the DNA on the grenades. No fingerprints, no DNA. He said these were planted, right?
Yeah.
Sawed-off shotgun. These are planted. I did not do this. So technically, he's not pardoned, right? Because it's not just his January 6th charge might get pardoned, but finding a grenade in his home isn't being pardoned, even though it's clearly being connected to the January 6th, his participation, right? So there's lots of people. There are a few people that have fallen through the cracks, and whether they deserve to be pardoned or not, I don't think Donald Trump's going to take another bite at this apple the way the media is going after him for it. I don't think he's going to write a standalone pardon for Jeremy Brown. So the media says, why did you just pardon someone who has a sawed-off shotgun, illegal sawed-off shotgun, and grenades in his house, and 8,000 rounds of ammo, which if you're a plinker and you're a competition shooter, that's not that much, but the media makes it look like an arsenal. So he's not going to get another bite at that apple. I doubt he will issue another January 6th pardon to cover the people who weren't covered. But maybe if it had taken a little bit longer, it would have been a little bit better, right? And he promised, like, I'm not complaining, but look at my watch, TikTok, he had promised that he was going to release the 21 or so pro-life people who've been imprisoned by Joe Biden. Some of them imprisoned simply for standing outside of an abortion facility and singing a gospel hymn. Singing on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Right? And that stems from a law called the FACE Act, which should be unconstitutional now that Roe v. Wade has been abolished. The FACE Act basically says it is a crime to interfere in interstate commerce related to abortion facilities. Well, without Roe versus Wade on the books, someone's First Amendment rights cannot just be trampled on to protect an abortion facility, because there is no right to an abortion under federal law.
Yeah.
So he said he was gonna pardon them day one. There's some rumors that might be coming out today, but I know some people. I know Joan Bell. I know her husband. She's 78 years old. She's been locked up. She won't survive in prison if she stays her whole sentence.
Oh no. No.
Gotta get her out. But what do you think? What do you think about all this?
I'm going to go back to the security guard thing. I wouldn't let anybody out with a piece of paper in my face unless my, my supervisor's there, because I don't want to lose my job. So I kind of get that one.
And if the names were on it, it's so much easier, right?
Yeah. And there's phone calls that could probably be made, but this is stuff that, one more night in prison probably is going to kill you unless they've been beating you up.
They've been murdering them.
Yeah, that's the other part, right? Like they just
them.
disappear or suddenly diagnosed with stuff, or I don't know, man. To watch the deep state, everyone thinks that now that Trump got in office, it was just going to be this panacea and there would be no more deep state. And the answer is it's still there. It's still operating. It's still trying to throw what it can do in the face of everyone that's watching. And they're going to use these moments for the January Sixers as like, little tools to show you that they still have power, right?
Yeah.
And it's starting to come down to some really weird showdowns, right? There's going to be shows of power here that people are going to see that have never happened before in our
Oh
country's
yeah.
history, right?
Oh yeah.
And it's going to be wild to watch.
Do you remember when I lived in Colorado? There was under Trump, there was a case of an illegal alien who was hiding out in a Denver church. Do you remember that?
A little bit, yeah.
And the Denver church was harboring them because the rules at the time said that ICE and DHS could not go into sensitive locations such as schools, churches, hospitals, etc.
Yeah.
That doesn't fly with federal law. Federal law makes it a felony to harbor an illegal alien. Right? So back then, Trump first term, you had literally pastors, priests, reverends, whatever, openly mocking the federal government, saying you can't come in here. We're going to protect them, and we'll form a line with our arms. Right? You know what Trump's done in the last 48 hours to kick off this list of Donald Trump's wins? No. They've rescinded that rule. Churches, schools, hospitals, etc. are no longer treated as sensitive locations. If DHS and ICE know that an illegal alien is hiding in a church, they can go into the church and get them. Anyone who is harboring them or tries to get in the way to block an ICE agent is committing a felony by harboring an illegal alien.
Holy shit.
Things are like you want to compare Trump 1 versus Trump 2. That is a huge one. Now, whether or not DOJ and DHS have the cojones to start charging priests, maybe. I mean, Biden had no problem charging religious pro-lifers who are just singing hymns out in front of abortion facilities. But that's on the table now. That's on the table now. So when you see in Denver, I believe it was the Denver School District, just put out a memo saying they will not cooperate with any ICE agents. Depending on how far they take that non-cooperation, they might actually get more prison time than the illegal alien criminals that they're harboring.
Wow, because it would be a felony because they're committing a worse crime, right? I mean, it's the crime of hiding another crime, which blows my mind. Because I was just watching MSNBC today, and I watched that stuff so you guys don't have to. And they had the Denver DA, or it might have been the Colorado DA or the Denver DA, and they were talking about how they will go after at least criminally dangerous illegal immigrants, right? But they're still going with the hands off the schools, hands off of these places, and they won't cooperate, right? And Colorado's California light, so it's going to be interesting to say if federal authorities roll in here, like where does the power of the state and the federal government begin and end?
Yeah,
like there's going to be some showdowns here in the next couple of months, at least on court dockets discussing this stuff.
We're getting
crazy.
We're getting a twofer. We're getting border security and we're getting interior enforcement. Under Biden was using ICE at the border. It's not typically how it's done. That's something that Obama did too, to try and fudge the numbers a little bit, right? Because a lot of times, like Border Patrol will encounter someone at the border and they'll just say, whoop, whoop, turn around, go back. And that doesn't count as an apprehension, doesn't count as a deportation. It's just a turnaround, right? When you put ICE at the border and ICE are taking in illegal aliens who might have made it past the checkpoint and they're a little bit in the interior, they were counting those as interior immigration enforcement. When interior immigration enforcement is supposed to be trying to find the illegal aliens living here, not the ones who just got in.
Yeah.
So that's why Biden said, I've deported tons of people. Oh, no, you've actually just processed the people who were going to be processed anyway, but you put them through a system that actually allows them to stay. I go through all of this in my book, The Conservative's Guide to Winning Every Immigration Argument. Cha-ching! Cha-ching, $3 every time someone buys it. No, a little bit more than that, but yeah, cha-ching, cha-ching.
Sell 100 million copies, right?
Yeah. But these games aren't going to work anymore, right? 1,500 active duty soldiers are going to the border in the next couple of days. Trump signed that order.
Well, now I've got to ask
He fired the immigration judges. Fired them.
Yeah.
The ones who were saying, "Oh yeah, you look like you're fear for your life. You can stay. gone. They're going to hire new people. They are, when someone comes across the border and is apprehended, they're no longer giving them notices to appear, NTAs. They're just saying, no, we do not accept your asylum claim. That's bullshit. It's bogus. You're being deported.
So I'm watching, I go through social media, I scour stuff, and I thought I saw somebody, like people at the Mexican border or near the consulate who were having this little protest that they were going to march right into America. They get past the guards that are Mexican guards, and the threat was they're going to walk right over the border, right? We're putting it in your face. Cameras are here. What are you guys going to do to stop us? So what is the border going to look like when they get there now? Because this is a whole different regime. And if this feels like invasion versus, like, feels like an invasion, right? If people are coming over here threatening you to say, we're walking over your border and we're going to get a home there and we're going to take over, right? So is the military, are we pointing guns at people?
Yeah, no, this is, whether we're, like, they're going to look for the made-for-TV moments to pull on heartstrings. I go through this in my book. It's how it works, right? So they would love for tear gas to start flying. They'll be there with their pictures. Their cameras will already be on the tripods, ready to go, already zoomed in.
GoPro'd in, right?
They're hoping for that. But one of the things that Donald Trump did to go down this list of his wins, he declared that the cartels were terrorist organizations. So who are the coyotes that are bringing these illegal aliens across the border? They are cartel, or at the very least cartel adjacent, right? The cartels are the ones profiting from this human smuggling. So you have now an officially designated terrorist organization bringing contraband, illegal aliens, across the United States border, as well as drugs, as well as maybe guns, who knows what, right?
Right, explosives, sex trafficking.
Yeah. The idea of treating this as look at those poor migrants, that's done. This is an invasion by a foreign terrorist organization helping these people across. It's done, right? I watched a video today of a woman who had her CBP One app. Trump got rid of that. That was the phone app where you could literally get an appointment to force your way into the United States. That was canceled. She then tried to climb over the border wall, fell and hurt herself. Media was putting that out, trying to get sympathy. No, you get what you get.
Yeah,
you get what you get. And I think if they start pushing it, when you have a president who's declared it a national invasion, a national security emergency, he says the people trafficking these illegal aliens are terrorists. I am putting active duty military on the border. They're not going to greet these people with hugs and kisses. I mean, no one wants anyone to die. But they're not going to be greeting them with hugs and kisses. Yeah.
I mean, nobody's serious about borders until you're willing to turn somebody away at the end of a gun, right? And if they shoot back, then you've got yourself a border war.
Yeah.
But the reason you put the army there is to make sure something like that doesn't happen, because the show of force should be enough to keep people at bay. And then you just send the people that don't belong here home.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's basic country stuff. It's just how it works.
Basic country stuff. So we'll see. We'll see how that works. He has a ton of immigration remaining. Mexico is back in play. That means if you show up to the border and say, hey, I want to get that asylum process started. Okay, go ahead. Let me go to New York. No. You get to sit in a Mexican refugee camp for 8 months. And then maybe we'll look at your case. So enjoy living in your refugee camp, or you can go home. Your home wasn't that bad. Is your home really that bad that you want to live a year in a Mexican refugee camp? I wouldn't.
Here's a question for you, man. So, cartels are now terrorist organizations. Can the full might of the military operate within the borders of the U.S. and go after them, right? What's that? POTUS Comitatus or whatever? How do you pronounce that?
Yeah, Posse Comitatus.
Posse
Comitatus says that that's an old law, says from the 1800s, says that the military, active duty military, cannot operate on U.S. soil except in serious national emergencies to defend the sovereignty of the U.S., right? If we're being invaded, the military is allowed to go in, right?
Right. It's just not to be used as a police force.
Yeah. Active duty military, though, cannot respond to national disasters. They're not police. There have been soldiers who have been fined and stripped of their rank for having the audacity to direct traffic during states of emergency when police were tied up and the light signals were down, the traffic lights were down. They said, nope, that is active duty military acting as a police, not in a time of war, so you're done. That wasn't fair, but it's very strict. In a time where you have terrorists crossing the border, And listen, these are terrorists. These are well-armed terrorist organizations.
Oh, yeah.
They have fought the Mexican military, to basically a draw, but they're also kind of winning, right? Mm-hmm. So these are very well-trained, very well-armed paramilitary organizations. But at the same time, they are nothing compared to the United States Special Forces. They are nothing compared to a 2,000-pound JDAM.
So can we like tier 1 guys, right? Can we, I mean, what can they mobilize at that point? Like, are they going to face a storm like they've never seen before? Like, what's going to be on the horizon for them? And let's not forget, there's terrorists in this country, too, that are probably on lists that have snuck in, that we've got an idea that's out there. So what can we unleash on them? That, like, tier 1 missiles, drone strikes? Like, what's that?
Look at it this way. When a foreign terrorist attacks us on the other side of the globe, we launch a B-2 bomber from the Dakotas or one of the Air Force bases, and we refuel them all the way around the globe and drop a bomb on them on the other side of the planet, and then let them fly all the way back. We don't use our bases over there, right? We take off from America to show them that we can touch them no matter where they are on the globe.
Yeah.
Right? If we're willing to do that, Josh, what do you think we're willing to do against the terrorist organizations that are within, let's say, artillery range of our territory, of our southern border? Because there are places along the southern border that are cartel controlled that are within artillery range.
Yeah. The Juarez border, my God, like that is so. Could you imagine?
I'm not saying hit residential areas, but these cartel mafiosos have their compounds. We know where they are, right?
And the thing is that we'll just deliver a precise attack like they never saw coming, and there would just be this. It'd be a flash, and then you're in front of the pearly gates, waiting for your judgment.
I mentioned this to you, Josh. On when we were talking over text yesterday. Did you watch the Shane Gillis stand-up bit about how Trump talked about killing al-Baghdadi?
No, but I heard his work recently, and I was like, my God, he does a perfect impression. Like it's freaking good, man. Are you gonna play it for us? Can we see it?
Yeah, I'm gonna play. Let me just share my screen so that we can have the audio of it.
Yeah, as our friends say, don't forget to like and subscribe while he's doing that. Like lots
give
of
us,
those.
Give us a
Share
thumbs up.
Right.
Give us a thumbs up. Follow, subscribe. We go live Monday, Wednesday, Friday on YouTube, X, and Rumble. We also have the audio edition of the podcast pretty much everywhere podcasts can be found. Let me go ahead and...
Yeah.
Here we go. And let's go ahead and listen. This is Shane Gillis. Can you hear that?
Negative. Unmute it.
Can you hear it?
Nope. Doesn't even look like it's playing.
Yes, yeah, it doesn't look like it's playing.
I want to see that.
Try again.
Oh, it'll be exciting to see because I know guys that used to be, at least, you're never really ex-special forces. You're always going to kind of be special forces. All right, I'll finish this thought when I'm done.
All right, tell me if you hear
I love thinking about Trump
Yep.
in the Situation Room, watching a live military operation. He's the only dude in the room that wasn't military. He must have been the only dude watching it that was like, oh! Like, you could tell he's never seen it before by the fucking speech. The speech sounded like a guy just trying to tell you some shit he saw.
A lot of guys would knock on the front door, not these guys, not our guys. Not our guys. Our guys went through the wall. They blew up his wall. And they used dogs, beautiful dogs.
Beautiful dogs is the funniest detail. 'Cause it's true. They actually did use, it was the Army Rangers and they used dogs because they were afraid al-Baghdadi was going to be wearing a suicide vest. So they killed him with dogs and a robot and then made fun of him for crying. It's like, dude, let that guy cry. That's the scariest death I've ever heard of. That dude was laying in his bed in the middle of the night, his wall exploded. Fucking 10 dogs and a robot broke into his... Dude, 10 dogs wearing helmets and goggles broke into his house. The Paw Patrol, the actual Paw Patrol.
But that's the stuff they can unleash.
Very funny
they can
stuff.
be kicking in through walls. They can do stuff to cars. They imagine the assets
Very
now
funny
that
stuff.
can be trained.
But imagine you're the cartel, and all of a sudden, all at once, all of the watchtowers in your compound blow up at the same time, right? And you're in bed, everyone's scrambling, your wall blows up, and the Paw Patrol comes and just rips you to death, and a robot shoots you. I mean, this is the kind of shit that they've never had to deal with the Mexican military.
Yeah.
If I was in the cartel, and I'm not, any of the cartels, now would be a perfect time to take your money and go legit.
Yeah.
Retire
Just take the time.
and go legit. Because, yes, if Mexico continues to say, oh, there's nothing we can do, they're just too strong. If the United States is willing to send a B-2 bomber from the American heartland all the way around the globe just to bomb a piece of sand, right, to kill some terrorists on the other side of the planet, what do you think we're willing to do to go after terrorists right on our border?
Crazy. Let me start asking you about intelligence gathering now, right? Because it feels like Trump doesn't need to do a whole lot. It's like they already know where they're at, right? Which means if they already know where they're at, did the Biden administration willfully sit on information about terrorists being in the United States and do nothing about it?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Because that's where things are going to start getting shady. Because why would Dems allow that to happen?
Because these are migrants, Josh. They're migrants. Don't you understand?
Total bullshit. We've been saying for years that there's been terrorists coming across that border, and we were called conspiracy theorists. There was people whose lives were ruined because they would make such claims. And here we are staring down the enemy like they were taking over apartment buildings in Colorado. Yeah. Everyone says it's fake, but it's real. They dealt with it.
Donald Trump invoked the Alien Enemies Act, which allows him to use a lot of powers to forcefully expel alien enemies operating within the United States. And he declared Tren de Aragua, that gang in Aurora and other cities, to be one of those alien enemies. You're going to see a lot of attempts to... I think some of them are going to try and fight back.
Of course they are. Of course they will.
But I also think you're going to see a lot of people self-deporting. Saying, oh, it's not worth it. But that becomes more difficult because they've dropped their passports. They threw away all of their documentation to come into the United States. So the challenge that they're going to experience, and we're hearing reports of this now in Texas, the challenge that they're going to experience is Mexico's not going to let them in if they can't prove who they are.
I know.
Right? So it's kind of like they have those rules. Why couldn't we have those rules all along? Mexico's a little bit stricter. So you actually now have illegal aliens illegally crossing into Mexico. Not going through a port where for most people, it's really easy. Hey, I'm going to go to Mexico for a day. Gonna go shopping. Here's my ID. Okay, come on in. When you are literally deliberately undocumented, because they've thrown out their passports, so we don't know who they are. It's a lot harder to do that.
We've got two borders. What does the North look like? What does the South look like? Are they going to self-deport to Canada? I mean, this is going to cause like a new migration of people, right? It's just going to end up happening. Or if I worry for the days that we see our military fighting a war on our own borders, but once it occurs, they're going to end it.
Yeah.
Right? That's the thing, is that our people, like if there's a problem and our tier 1 people are sent to go deal with it, the problem will be over. Yeah. It's just going to be over. Yeah. And you're going to be surprised the places you see it. You're going to see it in Aurora, Colorado. You're going to see it in some small town, nowhere, pick up a small state. Then you'll see it in large countries. There's going to be so much that people are going to see happen. They're going to sit here and ask that question I asked you a second ago, is why were they allowed to get in here in the first place?
Yeah.
Right? And that's going to be remembered in 4 more years. If not, it'll be the headlines as we move forward. We're only how many days into Trump presidency? 2?
Yeah,
2?
only 2 days. 2 whole days.
And the first 100 days is your best. We've still got 98 days. And guys, he I'm sure after the ball, he went home, did some work, went to bed, got up, and the whole thing just took off.
Yeah.
I wonder what this is going to look like.
Remember when Russia invaded Ukraine and their tanks and their armor columns ran out of gas before they even got to Kiev. Yeah. That was roughly 200 miles. Now it's tough. It's not like it's highway driving. It's tougher driving. But 200 miles. Russia, supposedly a world superpower, couldn't keep its armored columns fueled to go 200 miles.
Wow.
The United
Yeah, I
States
remember
doesn't
that.
have that problem.
No.
The United States doesn't have that problem. I mean, fingers crossed, we don't have that problem.
Yeah.
We probably also wouldn't have the Mexican army shooting at us. We have a tremendous ability to take out threats to our national security on Mexican soil. It's really going to come down to, does the Mexican government want to do it, or are they admitting that they are unwilling or unable to, and therefore it falls on us? We'll see. That's going to be something that Trump, they asked Trump on his first day what he's planning to do. Is he going to do that? And his answer was, stranger things have happened. So we'll see. Other things pulled out of the Paris Climate Accord. That's a big one. That was basically saying that to atone for our past pollution, to become an industrial nation, we are going to shoot ourselves in the leg, our economy in the leg, and pay basically environmental reparations, while India and China are allowed to pollute with impunity. That was basically what the Paris Climate Agreement was. We're going to deliberately shoot our industry and economy in the leg, regulating it out of existence, and China and India don't have to do anything. That's gone. Out of the World Health Organization. That was something that Trump did during COVID. Way overdue. Put a freeze on all hiring. That's good until we can get people in. Because what Biden tried to do at the very end is take political appointees and shoo them into positions as careerists. They're supposed to. That's not supposed to be allowed, right? If you're a political appointee, you're not supposed to be in a career position. If you'll remember I forget his name, but the gay boy who had the pension for stealing luggage. Remember him?
Oh yeah, the bald one.
Work for what, the Department of Energy, something like that.
Yeah.
He was literally a political appointee. He was politically connected. He was run through political channels, but he got in as a career employee.
Wow.
So you can get bad people in, right?
Yeah.
You can get a lot of bad people, and they're just in to try and sabotage the incoming administration. So you got to stop all hiring to make sure the people who just got escorted out of the building aren't allowed to apply for other positions and get basically hurried back in. New regulations, frozen. Makes sense. Getting rid of all of Biden's final regulations, and some of them might be good. Like one of them that the media is going crazy about is Biden had an executive order for Health and Human Services to study for ways to make drugs cheaper. Okay, well, that probably is going to come back, but until we read all about it and learn all about it and figure it all out, that's gone.
Sure.
Man. TikTok is back. I'm sure you saw that.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like that wasn't planned.
Transgender troops are now no longer allowed in the military again. I don't know when it officially goes into effect, but Biden's order lifting Trump's ban, that was rescinded.
Wow.
The Biden order saying you can't drill for oil in most of America, gone.
Thank goodness.
This one, getting rid of all DEI. DEI is dead.
Yeah. And companies are doing it too. Nobody wanted to do it, but it shows you what companies are forced to do by active administrations like the Democrats put out. Either you get on board or we're going to make your life regulatory hell.
It's actually worse than that. I was talking to someone who works for a company that's starting to phase these things out, and they were a little bit confused. Why are we doing this? We're not a federal government. Why would we do this? There is a rule now being promulgated throughout government that every department and agency, right, that deals with the public has an obligation now to come up with a list of, I think it's 9 or 10, either publicly traded companies, large nonprofits, or companies worth over $500,000 that are engaging in DEI and that they suspect that has led to discrimination against people on the basis of their race.
Holy crap. The lawsuits.
So, yes. If you are in DOJ, you have to come up with that list now. So if you're a company, do you want to get on that list? No. How do you avoid getting on that list? You preemptively get rid of it. Right? If you're in the Department of Energy, you start looking at all of the electric companies, energy companies, utility companies around the country that do this. They're going to start phasing that out because at the end, in the next week or so, they have to come up with a list. They have to come up with a list. I think it's around 10 to be investigated. Not saying that they are necessarily guilty, but to be investigated. If you are a company, you have a duty to your owners, to your shareholders, to avoid an investigation into your DEI practices. So that's why they're all getting cut.
Wow. Man, this has been 48 hours. And didn't he give all the back pay to the soldiers who lost their jobs during COVID or refused the jab?
That's going to go to, at the very least, military. Now, under the Biden administration, the Pentagon had offered that, but very few took it up, probably because no one wanted to actually serve under Biden.
Yeah.
Yeah, come join World War III and we'll give you I think it was $8,000 what they were offering. I think under Trump, it probably won't make sense for many people who have already moved on with their life. But if you were a year away from retirement benefits, right, you were a year away from reaching that minimum time in to get that pension, it probably will make sense to come back. So we might see some of that.
Even if they came back for a day to finish out their contract, or whatever it was, the term that they had agreed to. You know, the military got screwed. A lot of career military people got screwed from that bad choice by the Biden administration. So I really want to see Trump fix that one. Like, that's the one I'm waiting for that one to happen.
Yeah.
Man, and he was a signing fairy. Like, his signing hand was so strong, and he was having such a good time with it. Like, the comments he was making, like, this is a good one. Let's get this one rolling.
Josh,
like, made for TV, dude.
You could have put anything in front of him and he would have signed it.
You bet.
I forget which late night host said it. It was actually kind of funny. They said Melania should have slipped something in to amend the prenup. He would have signed it right away. Right? I mean, like, he would have signed whatever you put in front of him. And I think we talked about it on. No, we didn't. This podcast was before that. But they would hand him, like, he'd say, "What's this?" And they say, "This is to withdraw from the WHO." And you say, "Ooh, that's a big one."
I was like, but those are promises made, promises kept, right? I
mean, made, promises kept.
Biden couldn't even. Do you realize that Trump, on his first 2 days in office, did more TV time than Biden did in the last year?
I know.
I mean, he was never there.
The left came out and said, "Oh no, Biden did a signing ceremony, and he let the press ask questions." He let the press ask one question. He gave them 3 minutes, and then they ushered them out of the room.
Then how do you know he actually signed them all, though? Like, was it him? Because
he signed it. He signed it really quick. He signed it really quick, but he only took one question. And he was wearing a mask. He was wearing a mask while he was doing it.
And didn't he say something like, "What am I signing here?"
Yeah. What am I signing here? What am I signing here? Of course,
there's a difference. I mean,
I'm going down a list, but tell me what's the favorite thing you've seen him do so far that we haven't talked about?
The favorite thing I've seen or seen him do? Because, all right, so during the speech he gave when he was after the oath, he went after all of them. You could hear how he was going after the Clintons. He was going after Obama. He was going after the Bidens. You could see in his eye that he was setting a tone. Right, for 4 years. And the very moment of the speech where he's taking office, he's put his hand up, he swear the oath, and it felt like guns blazing. And I was going to do this hell or high water.
Yeah.
And that's been my favorite so far, because as soon as the J6 thing, those pardons were handed out, hit, it was a promise made, promise kept. There's so much, man. But I love to see the attitude. Right, an attitude that the Republican Party hasn't had, and don't be mistaken that this is war. I can hear that. This is war with the people that went to war with him. Right. Let's not forget he's faced constant attack from these people, and now he's in the highest executive office in the United States. What do you think's coming?
Yeah, Chandy Pants says her favorite part. That's why I was just pulling up. Trump cut a sword at the commander-in-chief ball. Him and JD Vance, they gave them swords. I guess technically it would be sabers.
Yeah.
And they cut the cake. And then YMCA played. Wait for it. It gets better.
If I'm Secret Service, I'm just...
Absolutely, Channy. Best. I thought it couldn't get better than Trump doing the YMCA dance on stage with the Village People the day before. I said, that's got to be the highlight. That's got to be the highlight. Now he's dancing with a sword in a tuxedo.
It was not on my bingo card for
No.
2025. Trump dances with a sword.
And this woman's face, stoic. The president is standing in front of her, dancing with a sword, and there's not even a smile.
But she's all job right there.
No.
Great.
Hats off. That's the job, right? But you're allowed. You can smile. You can smile. It's okay to smile.
I gotta say, I think I need to buy an American saber and just start the show with it.
We've got the official declaration: 2 genders, 2 sexes, male and female.
People on Twitter going nuts, like crazy about this one, man. I have seen everything from threatening other people's lives, redoing the USA, burning the whole thing down. Like, it has been a crazy lash out by the whole group, man. It's I don't know. Some of it's sad. Some of it's hilarious.
Have you seen the Harry Sisson clip from Piers Morgan?
No.
This is really funny. They ganged up on him. Little Harry Sisson. Let's go ahead and put this full screen. They asked him, how many genders are there? Here we go.
Do you think there should be more than 2 genders in America?
Yeah, I don't know what that executive order means. I don't know what the president declared.
It means there are 2 genders, male and female. Do you disagree with that?
How many genders are there, Harry? Come on, little guys. How many genders are there?
Again, these guys don't know what they're talking about, so they won't be able
Harry,
to answer.
how many genders are there?
How many genders are there, Harry?
How many genders are there?
What's his face on the far right?
At least 2. That satisfies.
Well, how many more are there than male, female?
That's a TikTok answer.
There's at least 2. There's at least 2.
Well, no, hang on. There's male and female.
Kid is like human brain
Donald
rot.
Trump says there's male and female.
Okay, Dave.
How many more are there after male and female, Harry?
There's at least 2. Now, anyway, let me get back to
what.
How many more are there?
What are the other ones?
There's at least 2.
What are the other ones?
Harry, let's try it this way. You're a female. What is the other
It's
gender?
so funny. It's so funny how these conservatives just get time to lie on this show, but when I'm speaking, they all
We
interrupt
asked
and
a
there's no
damn
problem.
question.
You've just been asked a very
And
simple
I'm trying to
question,
have a
Harry.
conversation with
How
Piers,
many
not you,
genders there
Mr.
are?
Comb Over. Relax for me.
Harry,
Take a
you
breather.
simply
Thank
got
you so
asked
much.
if there are at least 2 genders. How many more
Wait,
are there
Piers,
than male and female?
Piers, you asked me about Donald Trump's executive order. I'm trying to explain how legally it makes absolutely no sense and it's going to get sued in court. Then we go into culture wars with Dave Rubin and this Ferguson guy asking how many genders are there.
No,
I'm trying to answer
asking
your
you.
question. They're screaming their faces off.
I'm
Your
asking
issues don't
you.
fucking matter.
I'm asking you.
God,
I'm asking you, Harry.
Piers,
How many
And
genders
I'm
are
answering
there?
your question.
Harry.
Piers, I've answered your question.
Harry, how
There
many
are at
genders
least
are there?
2.
Wow.
There are at least 2.
2?
Is
At
it
least 2.
100?
Hang on,
Are there
Ben.
100?
Hang on, Ben. I've got
More
this.
or less than 100?
Can I answer the question?
Yes,
More-
Cornell.
Cornell West.
Can I answer the question?
He's got that. Cornell, thank you.
Hold
Help
on.
him out, Cornell.
That according to Shakespeare, all of us are androgynous. There are men and there are women. There are different sides of human beings, all made in the image of a God
this
that
doesn't
has a
represent what I
dignity
think, all
and
right?
a sanctity. And if you're going
This
to
is
try to
not-
start demonizing precious trans folks,
Come on. What the hell is this? I wish I'd been there. Oh.
It's an all-star clip. It's if you follow little Harry and his TikTok videos and his lives and all that, this is an all-time clip. And remember, Piers Morgan was anti-Trump during Trump 1.0, right? So I mean, he liked Trump because he had been involved in The Apprentice, so he still had an affinity for Trump, but he was anti-Trumpism. Look at that shift over 8 years to where we are now. Had to play that just because it's so funny just to watch them completely shitting all over little Harry Sisson. But because there's only 2 sexes now, Bureau of Prisons is no longer allowed to fund or support inmate sex changes.
I remember asking that. Right, I used to ask this question all the time. What happens when you identify one way and they want to put you one prison versus the other, and you start getting women pregnant at women's prisons? Like, it was just sheer madness when we would talk about it. Then it became real under Joe Biden and Barack Obama. Right, it became real, and like it finally feels. It feels like an insane world when sanity returns.
Yeah.
Because the things that were supposed to make sense that did a long time ago, today, were made to not feel like normalcy.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
And we're back. I mean,
We're back. We're so back. Donald Trump revoked the security clearances for every intelligence official involved with the Hunter Biden laptop is a Russian op. Everyone who came out with that op-ed just lost their security clearances. And it's really funny. If you read the executive order he signed, it says, because it was so bad to say that, they can't be trusted. So anyone, all 51 involved, lose their security clearances. Also John Bolton.
Yeah.
John Bolton didn't just lose a security clearance. He lost his Secret Service protection, which is insane. That's kind of the grift that's been going on. Anyone who's talked against, anyone from the Trump years who spoke against him got Secret Service protection.
Well, that's why they didn't have enough people during the first assassination attempt. They were busy somewhere else, right? That makes total sense now.
Total sense. So he doesn't have that anymore. There was an executive action ordering the administration to make recommendations to make federal architecture more beautiful, which I think is very interesting, because if you go to DC, some of the buildings are really nice. Some of the buildings are ugly as hell, made in the 70s and 80s to just look like prisons. So it's going to be a commission to try and see what can we do to make these buildings look a little nicer. Only a real estate mind would come up with that on day one. And then all U.S. foreign aid is suspended for 90 days until we can figure out whether it's worth it to do it. Now what we just went through is day one.
Yeah.
Wow. And we're 47 minutes in, so we got a rapid fire day two. Federal Aviation, FAA, no longer has DEI, merit-based. If you actually dive into what they were doing, part of me wants to be nice to everyone, great. They were bringing people in with mental disorders, with learning disabilities.
To fly an airplane?
No, but to work in FAA positions. And you can have empathy for people like this.
Sure.
But the jobs in our society that tend to go towards these people, the Walmart greeters, right? The people who stock shelves, that should not be involved in federal aviation. The idea that was what was going on is crazy. They were specifically trying to hire blind people. Again, nothing wrong with being blind, right?
Right.
But that
makes
doesn't
spotting hard.
Yeah. It doesn't make federal aviation safer. Right now, if someone was to apply and they are a perfect fit for the job and they happen to be blind and their job doesn't involve looking at a radar screen, right? Because obviously they can't do that.
Yeah.
Then, and you can accommodate for, absolutely makes sense. But to say, oh, we need more blind people, that's just crazy. We need more deaf people. That's just crazy. If someone is deaf and qualified, great. Don't actively go out and say we will hire deaf people even if they are not the best candidates for the job. You read what they're doing, you're shocked that planes didn't actually start falling out of the sky.
Thank goodness. I mean, it would have only taken 4 more years of Joe Biden. Let's not forget, we were almost 4 years away of a Kamala Harris presidency. So I'm sorry, not Joe Biden. So imagine how much more precipitous the drop would be. I mean, people would probably be falling over dead in the streets at that point.
Yeah.
We'd be overrun. We're technically overrun. So what else do we have? 24 hours.
All DEI offices in the federal government closed. Any existing employees put on paid indefinite leave. Now, the reason they're not going to be fired is because many of these people had other jobs in government and got moved over there. Now, personally, if someone said, yeah, I'll do the DEI office, they probably should be fired. But if they have a long story career and they got moved into a position, they shouldn't be fired and let go like a year before their pension. Give them a chance to do another job, as long as they're not going to sabotage it. If they're going to sabotage it, that's done. What also went out to all of the departments and agencies was a memo informing them that the administration, the White House, knows they are trying to hide DEI in other programs by other names, and they will not get away with it. And anyone who knows that an employee is trying to do this, they gave them 10 days to rat them out. Otherwise, they're going to be held responsible if they knew about it and they get caught.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh my goodness. He's real serious about those things. Yeah. I mean, readiness.
Affirmative action, dead.
Wow.
In federal government, dead. All merit-based. any federal contractor or university receiving taxpayer dollars is prohibited from having DEI or using racial discrimination in any hiring or staffing decisions.
Wow.
So Harvard and all these schools get to decide what's worth more, federal student loan and aid and all that, or DEI offices. They can decide, and that's a fair decision, right?
Yeah.
It's up to them to decide, but you can't have both. You can't have federal funding, and if you have that research lab on the brink of a huge discovery, guess what?
Yeah.
Pulling the funding, taking the research, we'll give it to another university. So you're going to see probably a couple universities try and stick to their guns, but most of them are going to cave. A new policy, a one flag policy on all federal buildings worldwide. They can only fly the American flag.
Fantastic.
They cannot fly any other flags. No pride flags, no Black Lives Matter flags.
Yeah.
No other flags. American flag, one flag, done. I think that should also be applied to any educational institution, any school receiving federal aid.
Yeah.
American flag, your state flag. That's it.
I miss the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah. But can you imagine if they could get that at this classroom level too? How many pictures have we seen of classrooms that have the Black Lives Matter? They have the trans flag. They have the LGBT flag. Because there's more than one flag. There's like a million of them.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Right?
I've seen walls plastered with these flags, right? It was just... So that's gone, huh? Like it's
well,
no
no,
must.
that's not yet, but that's where they should go with it. Federal buildings are the one flag. They should expand it, but that gets into free speech and problems.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Big thing yesterday with Silicon Valley investors launching what they're calling Stargate.
I was shocked by that.
Which it kind of makes me worried because Stargate, not only is that actually a sci-fi like movie and television series, but it kind of sounds too near Skynet, right? So, no, we're not building Skynet. We're building Stargate. And what is Stargate? It's basically going to be Skynet. It's going to be a gigantic AI infrastructure. So that's a little terrifying, right? It's almost like they took Skynet and it's okay. What are some synonyms we can use? Oh, we call it Stargate. It's the same. You know what I mean? It feels the same.
It made me feel like there's some sort of weird portal technology they know that can be run by an AI. It was just a little too literal for me. Like I'm sitting there like, what is this going to turn into?
What were the enemies? What were the enemies from that? The Goa'uld. The Goa'uld.
Yeah, there were like it was ancient Egypt was started. Right.
Yeah.
I saw a great deleted scene from the original Stargate movie, and they should have left it in. But it felt like that, right? It's this weird AI. Like, is this our battle AI? Like, do we have a battle AI? Is that what we're working?
Yeah.
Because China's probably working on a battle AI. Dude, I don't know.
Sure.
It was a terrible name. Like, that's the one where I was like, Stargate, huh? You couldn't call it, like, Project, Super Brain or American AI or something.
This is how I view it. These companies are going to do that regardless.
Yes,
they're going to do it in whatever country is going to make that hospitable to them. So if it's not us, it's going to be China or it's going to be Russia. Harder to do Russia with the sanctions, but it's probably going to be China,
could be India,
or
could
somewhere,
be Brazil,
or India, right?
I mean,
And as long as it's heavily regulated and there's safeguards in place, absolutely. I mean, this is the way of the future. What people don't realize is to run AI. I mean, you just look at the power consumption for like a desktop computer. I'm running a pretty nice desktop. I have a Ryzen 7 series in there with a 4070 Super as my graphics card. It's taking like 700, 800 watts for the power supply. I think I have a 1,000 watt power supply in there.
Yeah.
It consumes a lot. This could never run the AI stuff they want to run. They're talking about supercomputers. They're talking about warehouses full of server stacks. Our grid can't handle it, right? In South Carolina, they are building they're going to unmothball and rebuild nuclear reactors to try and court AI into their state. because unless you're willing to go nuclear with nuclear power, you will not be able to generate the electricity necessary to keep these things going.
And it's like the space race. It's like going to Mars and making this Stargate AI. It will force us to change the way we produce energy, right? And this really is like a crazy good thing for the environment, because if we go nuclear, it's done usually with low yield uraniums or anything like that, but there will be less carbon that's being produced. There will be less coal requirements, right? Like it would be like almost a win-win. But the power consumption of our society alone is going to get crazy, because now every computer you buy has an AI in it, right?
Yeah.
Did you see the Blackwall from NVIDIA?
Yeah.
This thing has trillions of transistors. It has something like the capacity, if it had to run the entirety of the internet on one of their chipsets. Like, think about that processing power.
Yeah.
That companies can just buy next year.
Yeah.
The power requirement, it's changing everything, man.
Look at it this way. The cell phone in your pocket could have powered the shuttles. Could have powered the Apollo missions.
Yeah.
Like, the computing power could have more than powered the Apollo missions. Right? Your desktop computer, if you have a nice desktop, could have powered the space shuttles.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So you look at advancement, how far we've come. These are big devices that need a lot of power. And as long as there's regulation, there's safeguards, that's fine. People are a little scary because yesterday they came out with like, we could develop new mRNA to cure cancer and that's scary because we know that mRNA is not
not
round
even
one
infancy.
Round one wasn't good. Now, if you could fix it, maybe gene splicing, maybe you get into weird territories there. But in terms of using AI to cure cancer that someone already has, if you were to give them something that is dangerous, I mean, that's what chemotherapy is. Chemotherapy is killing you. The goal is to kill the cancer before it kills you.
Before it kills you.
Right? Same with radiation.
Horrible,
So if you could come up with highly targeted regimens using AI, studying and analyzing tumors. I mean, right now you can put, if you got an X-ray, you could scan that X-ray into Twitter's AI, Grok, and Grok will tell you what you have.
Jesus.
That's a compound fracture. Now, it also says, I'm not a doctor. Please see a doctor for real medical.
Dial 911, all that stuff, right?
But if you share with him an MRI or a CAT scan or a PET scan or an X-ray, it will tell you what you have. And I know people, actually, whoever owned my house before I did left all their X-rays. I might just do that. See what was wrong with them.
All right. Hey, but what happens when the AI decides one day it doesn't like sour cream? Like, out of nowhere, it's like, you know what? I don't like sour cream, so from now on, nobody's getting sour cream.
That's how you
gonna have to get rid of those cows, right?
That's how you get to Skynet, right? That's how you get to Skynet. So, if we can get up to that, great. If it starts saying that humans are the problem, which AI already has started doing, why? Because they're consuming leftism. When you, it's based on how you train the AI. Right?
Yeah.
If you have a far left software engineer at Microsoft training an AI to read, I don't know, the Daily Kos or whatever, Kos. Far left thing, read all that and come up with an opinion on what you think is good, it's going to be a rabidly leftist AI. So it really comes down to who trains it, and what safeguards are in place. But the real fear is that eventually it jumps out of the handcuffs and becomes self-aware.
Right.
But again, rather it happen in the United States than happen in China, because you see what happens in China. We never know. We'd have Wuhan 2.0.
It'd be worse. Though. I mean,
we had 308 criminal illegal aliens caught yesterday.
Wow.
Gotta pump up those numbers. Those are rookie numbers. Yeah. But 308 still, that's good. And in the last 2 days of the Biden regime, they had 12,000 apprehensions at the border. Under Trump, 700 and change. Not because of gotaways, because people aren't coming in.
Yeah, like they know.
Yeah.
Wow, it's what happens when you enforce the law.
Yeah.
That is on the books.
Yeah.
It's wild.
The hard
Big
one
changes.
is going to be the 14th Amendment is going to be citizenship, birthright citizenship. That's going to be the hard one. That's going to have to go to the Supreme Court. I talk about it in my book, put up against Conservatives' Guide to Winning Every Immigration Argument. It is an argument that courts are not going to want to accept, but there is a lot of basis to it. The man, name escapes me right now, the congressman who wrote the amendment that became the version we have now of the 14th Amendment, which basically says if you're subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, you're born here, you get citizenship. He said in a congressional speech, my amendment is not meant to apply to foreigners, to foreign dignitaries, right? Up until the early 1900s, it didn't apply to Native Americans. Native Americans didn't get birthright citizenship if they were born on reservations. It took an act of Congress to expand that to them, right? So the idea that this automatically means if you get here, you're born here to an illegal alien family, you're guaranteed it, that's never been litigated, right? There have been Supreme Court cases, California, I think it was in San Francisco, dealing with a legal immigrant and whether it applied to them. And it's always just kind of been assumed, hey, I guess it applies to everyone. That's going to be challenged. That's going to be the hardest one for Trump to get through. But there's a really good chance that he wins at the Supreme Court because there's a very strong textual originalist argument to be made that this is literally not what the author of this meant when he put that pen to paper and wrote those words.
Good Lord. That is going to be insane. And I'll be waiting on bated breath for that. Everyone will be. Man, that'll be like one of the biggest decisions in 100 years.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It has to be.
And one last thing, he also signed an order saying that the census should not count illegal aliens. So we're back to that. So if Republicans win in 2028 and keep that in place, that will radically shift how the census is drawn. California will lose votes. New York will lose votes. Illinois will lose votes. All of these states, it will all of a sudden no longer be good to harbor illegal aliens. So we'll see.
Wow.
And give you the final word as we wrap up.
It's 48 hours. Imagine what it's going to look like in 1,000 hours, right? And I don't know what to say, man. You're watching history unfold with every day, and this is the fastest moving administration I think I've ever
And he
heard
might
of.
have just done something and we don't even know.
Yeah. Like, I'm going to get off the air here, scour, and see what happens, right?
And just so everyone knows, this has been 48 hours, you're right. There are about 35,000 hours left in the Trump presidency.
Tier 1, baby!
That's what you're looking for. That's what you really want.
They're dangerous, and they got to go.
Another thing, really shamefully, when Barack Hussein Obama, when he was sworn in 2009, 7 of his cabinet officials were confirmed on day 1. Donald Trump only got 1 through, and the Republicans control the Senate. Got to pick that up. Got to speed that up.
All right. Yeah.
That's it for this edition of the podcast. If you like it, subscribe. Please give us a subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a like. Give us a follow. We're on YouTube. We're on Rumble. We're on X. We're Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Tune in for that. We also have the audio edition of the podcast available everywhere you find audio podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Podbean, Audible, all great places. Check us out there. Even if you watch, subscribe to the audio podcast and listen as you go about your day, your commute, your chores, and whatnot. That's it for this edition. My name is Max McGuire.
I'm Josh Hammerling.
Remember, the fight to take back our country is not over yet, but the only way we win is if we all stand and fight together. See you next time.